Hi everyone, this is AG, this
I'm
is IJ. This is the second time recording, and
I thought we were done with this.
And the 8th recording I've made today to test the audio. We have a new microphone and we have a new camera, so hopefully everything goes well this time.
You got your notes ready, right?
I have the notes
unlike
ready.
Last time when you had to go fishing in your computer for your notes.
Yeah. One second. Cable's in the way of me actually seeing the notes.
Show now. I'm taking over. Oh no, he's back.
Okay, so one of the things we wanted to that we didn't actually get around to talking about in our previous recording, which is actually a very nice thing, is that this is the end of Arlong Park, and
what an end it is. Like, there's no better way for this arc to have ended.
And after this moment, there's like a good, like, I want to say like 5, maybe 6 episodes of actual manga content. The rest of it is filler.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is...
Because we have the Tonko bonds, and it jumps straight from the end of Arlong Park and the bounty update, which we will talk about. And then it goes straight into Lowtown.
Yeah.
But we got filler.
What they like doing is to pad for time. They usually take something that was happening in the cover, the covers of the series, called the cover story, and they flesh that into a whole part. There are a lot of really
good cover stories. Like, there are...
I can't wait for...
There were some things in the cover stories that were alluding to stuff, like,
10
years down the road.
I can't wait for the anime to get to the cover story where Bartolomeo burns a town down.
It's like, and then starts to hawk like
merch ever. It's great.
It's amazing. Like, I saw that, I'm like, this guy, because the guy controlling the island is either going to be all over that merch, or he's going to kick Bartolomeo out to sea and just let him drown. He's like, oh, it's a devil fruit, you. It's less user. Kick.
So, episode 41.
Bad.
The recap takes 3 minutes.
Yeah,
because so much happened in the last previous 2 episodes.
You asked me as we were watching it, how long has this thing been going on? And it was like 2.5 minutes in at that time, and we weren't even done. And I was like, it's a long recap. But to be fair, like, they were recapping only the important parts of just the last episode.
So, I did notice, though, that... Okay, so, going into the events of the episode, Nami is given the ultimatum of die with the villagers or rejoin the crew. They'll let them live scot-free.
Which is a lie, by the way. There's no way he was going to lie.
So Nami basically called his bluff, saying, I'm gonna stand here and fight with you guys. She doesn't move from that spot.
Because she would have gotten curb kicked right into a pillar, and she would have been out.
Luffy wakes up underwater as he sees Gen, really concerned about where his pinwheel...
No, his head is above water. The rest of him is still underneath.
Yeah. For some reason, I'm like, he's talking about... No, he's not Sanji. Who jumps into the water to try to kick the rock to get it out of there. Unfortunately, you can't smell what the rock's cooking underwater, so he was just destroyed.
I appreciated that.
But Hachan wakes back up as he goes to dive into the water. Usopp shows up.
It's almost summer and it's cold.
Yeah. Usopp shows up to give some support as he pulls out his rubber band of doom as he shoots it. And everyone goes, what the heck was that about?
Zoro's face is like...
And then everyone just looks at Hachan, who basically flinched, going, oh, it was coming right for me, as everyone just collectively face palms.
Like, even Arlong at that moment was like, Hachan, why?
Meanwhile, while Hachan is going underwater and all of his wounds basically getting filled with seawater and just getting knocked out.
Has this really cool moment. you skip Zoro's really cool moment, by the way, in between those two scenes, in which Zoro's trying to hold his own desperately until Luffy, like, tags in. And, so Arlong basically, like, keeps chucking water at him, and he basically grabs him and is like, oh, let's see what's underneath here. Did you get hurt? And he rips it off, and he's like...
This actually happens afterwards.
No, it happens before.
The really cool line that you're talking about is...
Because Hachan dives in, and we see, and there's some back and forth scenes, but scenes between Hachan, but his wounds don't open up until after Zoro's really cool line.
But
So,
Arlong is sitting there looking at this barely stapled together wound
that
going
was
across his
clearly
chest.
done by a complete amateur, probably Usopp.
As Arlong is going, that's such a wound and such a bad patch-up job. How is he still alive? And this
How
is
is
a
he
man
so conscious?
who we later find out has gone to almost every part of the earth and has fought in some of the most powerful people of the world.
He has fought with some of the most terrifying people. He is not one of the most
For
terrifying.
him to basically just sit back and go, how is this guy still alive? Is actually a really good compliment on Zoro's...
Zoro's prowess already.
Yeah.
Because Zoro... If Zoro went
He may
toe to
not-
toe with some of the villains that that he's up against nowadays, he would he would become a red dot on the ground.
Yeah, but the funny thing is that he gets even more endurance and more stamina and even more stupid as the series goes on. So.
And even more lost. That starts in Alabasta, doesn't it?
Yeah. He gets lost and ends up finding his own battle, so... You could see the clock tower. All you had to do was walk towards it. How did you end up outside the city?
He wound up, because when he left, he winds up on an island. Thankfully, just as the crew are passing, and he looks over, it's like... So
Luffy springs up out of the water now that the rock is gone.
Because Sanji literally kicked the rock into oblivion.
He launches Zoro out of the way so he can get some medical attention. As he starts fighting
with Dr. Shingles, right?
Yeah, Dr.
Because he
Shingles.
basically hits up part of the roof that had caved in from, like, part of the wall. Because there was, like, this overhanging of, like, the wall that had caved in. He just lands on top of it, and he's just like... why?
But Luffy goes whip into pistol, and then he starts doing a lot of pistols, and he does Gum Gum Gatling, which I'm not sure if we've seen to this point, but its build-up really shows the evolution of the regular gun to the Gatling.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Or as you put in
yeah, I had a
Gum Jim Gatling, which I love that move.
Gum
It's the best.
Jim.
It's the best move ever.
Yeah, I have a few typos on my stuff, but
I do too. Don't worry, they're all over the place. Just because I can write doesn't mean I can write.
Arlong is basically just sitting in a crater, as he's basically just looking at me and goes, "My brother was crushed by worms. This is personal."
Well, maybe they wouldn't have been crushed by worms if you had actually gotten up to help. Maybe they would have killed them all before Luffy could even do
Najiko
anything.
and Gen basically go off to the side. Sanji accompanies them. Zoro is resting outside Arlong Park now.
He's
Everyone's just taking
nap.
a break. Usopp is supporting from a mile away. As the final battle truly starts.
He got possibly
his
the
fight, yeah.
bravest fight he's ever even seen in his life.
There's a moment more terrifying to him.
Oh yeah.
In fact, it's plastered all over his face when it happens. His terror. You know exactly which one I'm talking about. But Arlong starts out by monologuing, which is never a good thing for a villain. He goes, "Do you know the difference between a human?
Do you have the time?
A human and a fishman?" As Luffy is basically just one man goes, "Nose, jaw, Oh, the webs!
He's like,
Arlong
nose. Oh, the jaw. Oh, no, wait. The webs.
As Arlong basically just bites next to him, essentially saying, "No, it's teeth, you idiot."
So it was the jaw then.
But Luffy does something actually really interesting as he's trying to bite him. He grabs his head and moves it out of the way.
Which is already showing some competence from Luffy.
Yeah.
Because if we even harken back to the Bucky fight in which he was trapped in the cage, he feasibly could have like maneuvered himself out of that cage if he'd been able to rub two brain cells together for that one.
Do you know what the line at the end of the episode is? Because I didn't actually write that thing down. It'd be on the next page.
Oh, we on the second episode?
I went 2 pages.
Oh, well, that won't help. This is why you take elaborate, comprehensive notes. Yeah, it was at the end.
It was...
Because we're not at the castanets, right?
Right.
So it's basically he goes...
Oh,
it's
right.
something to the line, to the tune of, it doesn't matter, like you don't need strong teeth to break rock, and he just punches a pillar and demolishes it, and Arlong's face is like, you can kind of see it cracking, like, because he didn't quite realize that humans could have the same strength.
Luffy is really strong. We don't really know this until he basically just punches solid rock and it explodes, and it's like,
because
whoa!
Morgan and Alvito were not Luffy's first fights. You can clearly see this, but even in his fights with them, that he's clearly already an accomplished fighter. He just lacks real experience from actual opponents that want to kill him.
Luffy basically picks up Zoro's discarded, well, technically it's the brothers' swords that, no, it's not Hachan, it's the 2 brothers. He picks up their swords and he starts
and Johnny.
waving them around like, I'm gonna get you, and it's like, oh, this guy clearly doesn't have any...
He, like, basically does this with a sword. So basically just flailing him around.
He gets close enough to Arlong to do a surprise punch to his face, knocking his teeth out. And I was like, oh! Because, you know, those are really strong teeth.
This is the first time that they've even seen Arlong take this amount of damage before. Like, because even Sanji and Zoro weren't, because they weren't at full strength, because Sanji had his stomach caved in, and Zoro was poorly stapled across the chest. So neither of them was really at their full strength when they were fighting Arlong, or else combined they could have taken him down. But since Luffy is fresh in the fight again, he's able to really give Arlong a good fight, which is, I think, something Arlong hasn't had for at least 8 years.
Either way, it's this really nice moment of bravery is completely rewarded with Arlong's teeth growing back because he's a shark.
Because, like, you commented in the last time we had done this, like, even when we saw it as kids,
we already knew that they were going to grow back because he's a shark. But it's like,
hey.
oh. So
and Luffy's like, oh yeah, he's a shark.
And he starts pulling out his teeth, growing them back, as he uses his tooth attack, or as I call it, the shark jaw castanets. Which
I like
not only is a
better.
pun, but it sounds cooler.
I like castanets.
So Luffy goes, oh cool, let me do it too, as he puts one of the teeth in his own mouth going, ah.
I have the teeth now, and like Arlong's face is like, take me seriously.
As he basically just attacks, like getting right into him, and he
Luffy's
goes, I am, as he bites him with his shark teeth going, ah. Like, how do you like your own teeth?
I just love Luffy. He's just such a...
Now, how hard was that? Basically just making fun of them and doing it. That took around, I want to say, about 8 to 10 minutes in the actual video.
Because Luffy was having to dodge, almost getting bitten.
But it was also kept cutting back to the peanut gallery going, oh, what? Oh, it was like, and it feels very old anime, and I'm like, I'm so glad that he grows out of this.
Having it say, like, old anime, like, denotes that they don't do it in anime anymore.
Well, no,
like,
it's just an old anime technique.
Yeah, but still, like, they just do it differently.
You know, it took me until right now to realize that the one on the right of that is Espeon, the one in the light. It took me until now. Okay, so I'm not going to go into it, but it's the only one that's not there, I know.
I mean, it wasn't Jolteon.
So, Arlong basically goes into the water to use his shark darts attack, which is
in which he goes into the water, and you see his
dives out of the water
in his back, like, surfacing.
It goes, it's a shark! Luffy!
No, that was Usopp as well.
No, I was like, but still, it's like, and Luffy now knows what he's gonna do, so it goes, Gum Gum Shield, in which he grabs his fingers.
After he gets hit like 3
puts it
times,
in front of him, and it goes,
trying to figure out how to do something. Because Luffy is trying to use some strategic know-how with this.
He actually stops Arlong using the shield, even though it looks really stupid.
Because he just wanted his nose. He just wanted to grab onto him.
What's funny is he then, when he then gets launched in the air, he meshes his fingers like this, and he makes a finger net, grabs him, and once he's stunned, he goes into spear. Which is really great because, fishing. But Arlong essentially just snaps at this point, going, okay, now I gotta kill this guy in the most painful way possible. So he grabs his shark tooth sword.
Because by this point, Arlong is kind of doing the same thing that happened to the Sea King we saw at the beginning of the whole fight into Arlong Park. Which is, he basically goes into a frenzy. His eyes get, like, pinpoint small.
No, they actually become slits.
Did they become slits?
Yeah.
I know that they either way became very thin. And, like, he, like, basically goes, like, completely rigid. Because before then, he was kind of, like, in, like, a lax pose, kind of. But now he's kind of, like, standing up straight. And he's, like, fully taking the fight seriously. Because I don't think he intended the fight to be as hard as it was.
Arlong basically slams this incredibly sharp weapon down on Luffy, and then he goes in for another attack, but Luffy avoids him, which eventually causes them to do this cartwheeling motion up the pagoda.
I thought that was pretty good.
Yeah. Until they basically fly into Nami's survey map room, which we're going to go into the next episode talking about what happens in there.
But, so, I really like the aesthetic of Arlong Park and how it looks, because the pagoda kind of also looks like his sword as well.
Just kind of make it
looks
look
like shark
teeth.
Mm-hmm. Which fits the aesthetic of the place, which is usually something you see in One Piece episodes.
Mm-hmm. Episode 43. Luffy is basically just sitting around inside the room as he's like, "What is this room?"
He's
as
like
Arlong goes,
around.
This is the room of our navigator."
It's full of, like, dusty maps and boxes.
Our surveyor.
Like, stacks, like, as high as a person in some
As he
areas.
refers, even though he is using the word friend to refer to Nami,
He's
is very obvious
her like
from the
pet.
bloodstained quill to how many maps there are to Nami's demeanor against him that he just doesn't respect her.
No. He treats her like a slave, basically.
At best, she's a pet to him.
Mm-hmm.
And
in which he refers to her as a pet, really.
And there's a really nice moment of silence as Luffy just sits down the quill.
Because, like,
and then
a
reaches
quill
up.
bounces, like, falls off of the desk with the force of them coming into the room, and it finally just falls over, and it kind of rolls over to Luffy, and Luffy just, like, picks it up. It's like, there are bloodstains on this quill. In, like, a very, like, in which all the humor is kind of spent from his voice.
Yeah. He kind of just sets down the quill as Arlong basically just puts the blade against his throat, and then he just grabs the blade, and Arlong moves to, like, cut his hand off and his head, and he physically cannot move against his conviction in a very anime sort of way.
It's pretty neat.
As
I
he
love this
basically
whole
just crushes the shark tooth part of the blade as it just like crumbles in his hand as Arlong basically takes a step back. And in that piece of silence, the cracking of the metal breaks the silence, and now all hell goes loose, in which he just starts destroying the room. And from the outside, it just looks like that he's just chucking things out. But Nami is seeing
There's
her
even
desk.
this really cool part where the background noise fades away, and it just like is completely like silent except for, and it like hones in on Nami, and it just, because she's really the only one, because it takes the crew a while to understand what's going on. I don't think any of the villagers fully understood until like a significant amount of maps had fallen from the room.
The one thing that Luffy may not be smart, but he is certainly empathetic to people's problems. Like, he will analyze a situation and realize what is going on with these people,
even
and
if they don't
immediately know what they're up against. It's actually really interesting that he has this sort of gift of knowing what's been going on.
Yeah,
almost.
and I was gonna say something.
But
so it's also at this point that Luffy actually takes the fight seriously, because it's very clear the instant he grabs the sword that he wasn't taking the fight seriously.
Arlong goes for another shark darts, and he basically dodges, grabs his nose, and just breaks it. And it's like, why did you do that? And as he goes in for a shark tooth drill, which is the darts above land, Luffy is already readying a battle axe. And as he bites his leg, the foot just comes down and just smashes him all the way down into the final floor of the pagoda,
and there's also
making
this really
it basically
cool
just
scene.
crack and just basically come apart.
And there's also this really cool shot that thankfully they kept in the anime that
you see Arlong down there, and then it zooms out,
and it's like several floors up, and there's Luffy just staring down at him, like able to take a breath, like at last.
Like, you see this a lot with. I see the spider.
He was on the camera for a while. So, anyways, and it's at this point.
Got it.
And it's at this point that that the building begins to fall. Like, it has a pancake collapse, and like the and at the time that Luffy is looking down at Arlong,
we forgot
the flag pops off of it with the force of it falling down, and it tumbles like head over end, like down the pagoda as it collapses. And
main theme
running.
Starts playing. Sunshine comes down through the poetically dark clouds. Luffy comes out of the structure and says, "Nami, you're my friend."
Well, it's not until after it collapses and he climbs his way out of the rubble.
Gum Gum Axe killing a building. This is the second one.
There will be more counts of buildings being demolished.
You know that whenever he uses Battle Axe, he is planning on destroying a building or a part of a building. And
like at least half of it's going down.
Everyone is happy. Sanji misses his hug.
Oh yeah.
In which he just died for a hug, but they're already going in for another hug.
But no, Chico like springs to hug again, and Sanji just face plants in the water, and like he doesn't come back up for a second. Like, you know that he's like underneath, just like.
Nami comes up to him and puts his hat back onto his head, and then Nezumi shows up, going, "Well, now that Arlong is gone, I can now take credit for all this."
"Oh, these scumbags again," and then right under it, "Get lost, rat boy."
Zoro basically comes up and makes sure that Nezumi can't do that.
Because he like grabs him by the neck, and Nezumi starts to freak out, and then Zoro proceeds to beat him up and all the Marines.
And as he's leaving, Nami thankfully gets the final blow on him. Which is actually a very nice, like, period on that entire story.
Because she's basically pulling on, like, his mustache whiskers. And he basically runs off with a... You're Captain...
I'll get you next time, Gadget.
You're Captain Luffy. I'll get you, I swear. You'll be sorry for this. And, like...
And we actually see what he does. He goes back to his ship as he then starts communicating through a transponder snail.
Or as they're called, Denden Mushis. And we'll get to see lots of these little guys.
And it's so interesting that this is
Straw Cats get one eventually.
The first time that we actually get to see one is when people are actually taking him seriously. But it also kind of feels like that Oda is like, how would they convey knowledge to each other in a very fast way?
Because, in not the next episode, but the episode after it, we also see how news travels, which is a really good part of world building that really helps make One Piece feel believable.
We'll get back to this episode in particular at the end because you had some stuff to say about it.
Yeah, so we'll save this for the end because I really liked this
episode 44. We're gonna kind of just rush through.
It's a party episode. They basically party all week.
There were some really good jokes. There's some really heartfelt moments, like Nami saying goodbye to Bellemere as her ghost basically appears to her in her house.
There's the boy whose father and village died, and Note and him get to talk, so they close that out as well.
The crew is basically going around enjoying the time that they have, where Sanji is just enjoying the types of food. Zoro is enjoying the beer. Luffy is enjoying the meat.
Or he's
and
trying
Usopp
to enjoy
is enjoying being himself.
Usopp support song number 185 and Usopp support song number 386.
Yeah.
In which he probably passes out after telling that.
But the most important part is where Gen is at Bellemere's grave.
His best dad.
Basically going, I'm sorry that I couldn't be a better dad to them. As Luffy comes out of nowhere to just ruin the mood. As he's just like, what am I supposed to say to a who died again? And he's like, it really doesn't matter. And he just keeps botching the I'm sorry for your loss type thing. And it's like,
but you can tell that
stop.
He's really trying, but he's clearly never experienced
Luffy is not that good at ceremony, period. As we see going through the series, he avoids doing the ceremonies because
I think he sees them as super great things and he doesn't really know how to react. And he just makes them worse and he's trying to cover up for it. But then it just
we then see the next day, Nami has left all of the treasure that she had reacquired from Nezumi as much as she could.
Mm-hmm.
And
he probably already began to spend it by the time she caught up to him again.
And so she left it in her cabin. Turns out in the next episode she actually took some of the trees from the orchard with them, so that they can...
And planted them on the ship, which will save them from scurvy, so we never have to deal with that again.
Yeah.
It's shove more limes into him. It should be good.
It also adds a little bit more of decoration to the ship to give it character, but also another piece of a character of the ship putting their mark on their environment.
Mm-hmm.
As you see goes on, every new character adds something to the ship.
Mm-hmm. In their own small way. And so Sanji, realizing that Nami is not... Oh, wait. We have to talk about this. So Nami, as she's preparing to leave, basically is, talking to herself as if...
I said that already.
Oh, yeah. And
so...
Bellemere pushes her out the door. It's super sweet.
Yeah.
It was adorable.
Nami then does the opposite of Sanji's goodbye, in which she's trying to leave so fast in such a despicable way that they just will not be sad for her. She runs past everyone trying not to say goodbye, and when she lands onto the ship, she opens up her shirt and all of their wallets fall out.
And she just, like, almost, like, curtsies as all of the wallets are falling out, and they're like, ah, you cat thief! You never change! It's like, how dare
she
you
wanted to go
come
out
back
on a
here
high
and
note
give us our
instead of
wallets back.
she wanted to go out on a high note instead of, you know, actually saying goodbye and being sad.
Because they're probably super
is
hard
exactly
for her to say goodbye.
Which is really an aspect of her personality that I find really interesting, because she doesn't like being sad.
Or
she prefers people to either be happy with her or upset at her. No middle ground.
Mm-hmm. And I really love it because Sanji, like, he gets all upset thinking that the other guys...
I forgot about a very interesting aspect. Earlier, at the beginning of the entire episode, you see Zoro finally getting patched up. And Nami is also getting her wound kind of sewed up, and that's where she basically goes, hey, here's this new tattoo I want. And Zoro is basically sitting there, and he goes, man, we need a doctor. And Luffy's like, yeah, that should be on our list.
But a musician should come first, right?
No, we have to get a doctor first. And we also need someone to fix the ship. Also, we need a second sniper.
and you know, someone who could steer the ship really well would be great too.
Oh, also someone that could do reconnaissance. And then a musician. But it is actually kind of nice that it's like you slowly see like Oda going, oh yeah, I should probably put a doctor on the ship. Because like I need to put this on paper so my fans won't let me forget. Because it's like almost a year later that you actually get that doctor. Mm-hmm. So it's...
Well, in the manga running, I forget how long it was, but it was like
it's about
10 years before they finally got the musician.
No, it was 10 years ago that they got the musician.
One Piece has been running for like 20 years.
I guess you got a point.
So like 9 years then.
So... we see Nami's new tattoo, which is a pinwheel made out of orange leaves, which looks really cool. And we also get a little bit of backstory of why Gen has the pinwheel. After all this time, we finally find out it's because Nami only likes him when he looks ridiculous,
which is hilarious.
And it's like,
and it's super sweet because it shows the kind of person Gen is.
But I also Gen basically leaves his pinwheel, in Bellemir's grave. As it basically just ends the episode with another great moment of silence, just hearing the pinwheel go.
Because it kind of like
bookends that pinwheel. Bookending his entire character like that. And I'm like, that's really cool.
Also, I like when Sanji gets like territorial of Nami's feelings. Hearing that the guys have like frightened her off or like offended her in some way.
Don't worry, I don't think Luffy knows what sex is.
Oh, he knows. But
and he knows he doesn't like it.
Well, we don't know that either. But
can I eat it? No.
Can I eat it? Can I eat it? Can I eat it? No, you just. Then I don't care. But so I like Sanji's percentage of the reason why he joined. 98.72%. I rewinded it 3 times to make sure I had the right number. That's a weird percentage for wanting to join a cause of a redhead.
Some people really like redheads, though.
Yeah, it's like, and Zoro physically pulls the anchor up.
Yes,
it's pretty neat.
So episode 45, an albatross with a news carrying thing goes up to the ship, now showing what it looks like.
Because we're in the episode between arcs, the bounty episode, which I personally do not classify as part of the arc. I know that the wiki does, but I personally classify them in the middle.
But it's to end off everything that they've done so far.
It basically ties the bow on the last arc, and then it allows, with the other arc, to have some direction. Even if they don't know exactly where they're going, then they kind of have a feeling, you feel where they're going.
So, the news basically comes up, and while Nami is reading the paper, which, I remind you, is being sent by an intelligent albatross that, knows money and knows how to count and is like showing us
'Cause
off
this is
and
not
like
the
salutes
first
and
time.
goes off, and it's like,
Because this is not the first or the last time we've seen intelligent animals. Like the dog. The dog from
the beginning of the series, yeah. And Luffy's wanted poster comes out of it as
it
as
just
it
falls
then
out
cuts
naturally
to
as they're reading.
the military generals who are basically sitting around looking like the Yakuza, talking about Luffy's new bounty, in which they go, well, he took out 3 really big names in East Blue, so it's only natural to give him more than the
It's
person that
obvious
he last defeated.
because he apparently defeated all 3 of them within like a week.
Within like 3 weeks of each other. And it's like, what? It's like, that sounds impossible. And they put him above Arlong at 30 million. And I'm like, yeah. Well, it's like, that's pretty good. And then we get to a very big aspect of bounty episodes, in which they go back to every little place that they have touched and going, hey, look, this is what the people are known for now. We kind of cut back, to Luffy and Usopp, as Usopp now gets excited because, you know, the back of his head is on the wanted poster.
Which will show problems for him.
And he's like, yeah, it's like we're real criminals now.
And now he's like, don't be so happy about this. It will be hard for us to show our faces in town. Which he's exactly
Zoro
right, as we see.
Gets a little worried about bounty hunters that they're going to meet on the Grand Line.
Which shows that
they don't even show up. Bounty hunters don't show up for the rest of the series up until, I want to say, Dressrosa.
I believe, personally, that the reason why we don't see any bounty hunters is because Zoro personally takes care of them. So that Luffy doesn't even know about it. There's like, Luffy and some of the other guys don't need to worry about this. It probably takes him and one other person to like get rid of them. Not to kill them, but just to get rid of them before they become a problem.
Out of a stroke of plot convenience, Full Body shows up as he goes, hey, this is my chance to reclaim my glory, as he loads a cannonball into his cannon as he shoots far too high to actually damage the hull of their ship.
Because that's what you're
Zoro
supposed to do.
basically just walks up and cuts the cannonball in half. And then Sanji comes out of the kitchen, who also gets upset because he's ruining mealtime.
And I think that Full Body kind of realizes that he picked a fight with the wrong person.
As they basically just sail back off, now beleaguered, as Nami looks up from the newspaper going, what's that racket?
Which is her usual thing for how things like this go.
Out of all of the let's cut to some people that we go to, this is the one that I want to talk about the most.
Oh,
because
Best Boy?
Because it's the one that
it's
has
Best Girl, isn't it?
Because it's the one that has the most actual like story to it, and isn't just, hey Mary, did you see the newspaper? I did, Kaya. We are 2 characters that existed at one point. Yeah.
We won't show up again for a big scene until Anislavi. No, until Water 7. We show up in the other bounties, but it's not until Water 7 that we get to like see them again. Like not physically, like not the crew sees them again, because that would be impossible.
We then see Mihawk floating up to an island of beleaguered soldiers.
His sail isn't even out. He's just floating calmly.
I would like to think that the ocean is too terrified to let him just stay there.
Or he could be in the calm belt.
It is a
we don't know.
It is probably a ship designed to
island.
send them through the calm belt. It's how he can get around everywhere.
And just the Sea Kings are too terrified to creep up on him. I would believe that.
Mihawk goes up to these beleaguered
who are
pirates
freaking out.
Who are freaking out.
Do you want us to get the captain? It's like,
yes, I want to meet with your captain. As he walks up, as he shows Shanks Luffy's wanted poster.
It's like, I found some kid there, somewhere, and Shanks it's like, I've had a long morning, because you can clearly tell that he's hungover. He's like, Why are you talking to me? I
As
don't
he
want to talk
shows
to anybody.
Luffy's wanted poster, as every member of the crew instantly gets excited.
It's like,
Because at first you kind of think it's Luffy's vision of the past, where it's like, oh yeah, they loved him. You know, it's like...
no,
like,
they loved him.
It was like, no, this was someone that they adamantly said, this guy is going to be great. It was like, we would let him
Shanks
part of our crew.
probably always talks about him, and
Yeah.
the only reason that they didn't take him is who Luffy is connected to. Because I guarantee you that there would have been at least 3 people tailing them to the ends of the world to get Luffy back.
And what better to celebrate this than Shanks drinking through his hangover? Historically, though, alcohol was easier to store in large quantities more than water, because water could get stale, but mosquitoes
lasts-
and stuff and bugs
just
don't
die.
usually lay their eggs in alcohol because it would just kill
And
them.
if they try, they'll die.
It's there was
it
also
will sound
there's
bad.
also famously stories of pirates cleaning their guns with the alcohol that they're drinking, for the gun to immediately just misfire and just light everything on
Because
fire.
they're
Whereas this-
drunk in addition to everything else.
Yeah, and so
Not everyone who tried to become a pirate became world famous.
yeah, it's just the ones that lasted for more than 4 years.
For more than a year. Blackbeard was only around for 4 years.
Yeah, and after kind of going back to Luffy's main village and seeing that, Nami basically lays everything down on the table, literally, in which she goes,
She grabs a
To
map, basically.
get to the Grand Line. We need to go up Reverse Mountain. And they're like, what?
How?
And I was like, well, we're going to have to go up one of the contours of the mountain because it has reverse slopes going up it.
Because it's a winter island, they say.
Yeah.
Which we'll touch into that as we get into the Grand Line.
So you see this mountain, like it's sending the water up, and it goes in as the water deposits into the Grand Line. It's the only
it
way
basically
into it.
like forms like a typhoon.
In real life,
along
this
the
would
sides of the
definitely not exist, but
But
it
the
is
red
a
line
convenient.
would also not exist.
It's
the
a convenient
sides.
way for Oda to basically say, in this world, there is only one way into the Grand Line, and they must travel up the Grand Line in a very certain way.
Which is gonna look really cool. Like, it sounds so much cooler, and it looks super cool, and just, we'll just sail and we'll be there in
But
a day, and we can get to the
Nami
Rockies.
says, even though we did pack a lot of stuff, we need to go to Logtown to log our adventure into the Grand Line. So, even though that we are wanted by the military, they would like to they would like to know that we are in the Grand Line,
and that we have left that they've left the East Blue, where it's probably harder for them to get to them.
Yeah, honestly, like it's more. I want to say it's partly for record keeping of like, hey, we need to go here to resupply. And while we're there, the military will
Zoro's
say,
new swords.
hey, now we know that we don't have to keep putting up wanted posters in the East Blue. We just need to worry about them staying in the Grand Line because there's no way out of the Grand Line until you're through it.
Mm-hmm.
It's why it's so funny that he didn't even... that Krieg barely got past the first island before he got destroyed.
Mm-hmm. And they sailed back through the Calm Belt, which we'll see the Calm Belt.
A mysterious woman is teased just after revealing that Logtown, besides being the closest place to the reverse island on their ocean, that it's not only where Gold Roger was executed, it's where he was born. And it's where
which makes
all
sense
of
why
his
they brought
supporters
him there.
are.
Which means that Gold Roger is also from the East Blue.
Yeah.
Which is an interesting note.
Have they mentioned the connection between Shanks and Gold Roger yet?
Not yet.
I believe that they mentioned it way back when Buggy was.
Well, no. He was on a crew with the same crew as Buggy and some guy with a really cool beard.
Yeah.
But we will get to the guy with the really cool beard and his
So.
unnamed captain.
Besides the final episode being a silver because it's just sort of average.
It's a bounty episode. All bounty episodes by nature of coming after arcs and coming before an arc you're excited about are going to be silvers.
Every single one of these
episodes,
episodes
gold, they're doing something
are
wrong.
gold.
Mm-hmm.
Every single one of these episodes are gold, which
I
would say it's pretty good. You wanted to talk a little bit more about the third episode of this set, which is
what I did
43.
With the fight of Mihawk and Sanji's farewell, I rewatch every platinum candidate to make sure that I am not into the hype of the episodes.
I just swallowed a bunch of hair.
With exception to episode 43, all of these episodes for me were either really high silvers or they were gold. They were like skirting the lines where they could be classified as either one. Like they were right on.
You mean
line.
platinum?
Well, except for episode 43. This episode to me was a platinum. I rewatched it.
So you're gonna list this one as a platinum?
It was my platinum.
Okay.
Because
I'm still going with gold.
I have not seen this episode for 10 years. I went into this episode the first time I watched it for the show as I'm kind of like, I was kind of like bracing myself. It's like, because I knew it was going to be good. I knew I was going to like it. I'm just going to prepare myself mentally for it not being exactly what I remember. Because it's been a decade. And I had recently read through the manga and I was like, this is just such a cool chapter. It's paneled and it's like laid out perfectly. And I loved it, and then I kept going into the Lowtown thing. Because as I said, they kind of just run into the other, and they're super easy to overshot into the Grand Line with that. Because you have the big collection tankobons.
Mm-hmm.
But so, I rewatched it, and it was not only as good as I remembered, but having the music add on to some really good fight choreography and some really good scene transitions. For instance, even with the transitions from the show to the commercial and back to the show was really good. Because because Luffy gets his final hit on Arlong and he's looking down at Arlong and he kind of sits down and the episode goes to commercial. Almost exactly after it. And because we don't watch the commercials because we have Hulu, and because we're watching it on Hulu because we don't have to worry about simulcasting for at least 4 or 5 years.
Uh-huh.
So it's no big skin off our nose if we simulcast it with Crunchyroll or Verve. But so
it might actually be over as a series before we actually get to it. Who knows?
We'll see. If we can stay on track, we might catch up to it before they end.
Yeah.
Because
there's a good chance that we're behind on 2 weeks, so...
Yeah. So... And then it comes back, and there's just this overhead shot where the room is slowly spinning, and it's just a shot of Nami's cartography room. And Luffy's voice over it is Nami can't leave with us because this room exists. So the only course of action I have to do is I have to destroy everything about this room and she can come with us. And then you cut to a recap of Luffy's foot just going through Arlong's face basically. And it caving him and just caving him into the ground as the flag falls, and I'm like, it's a really good episode.
Uh-huh.
So I loved it. I would gladly give it my first platinum. This is the bar for me. If an episode cannot match how I felt about this episode, it is not a platinum for me. Because I would classify this as better than not only the Sanji's farewell, but the Mihawk and Zoro fight, which were really good episodes. But the problem with those two episodes is they were close together and they were just as good as each other.
Okay. I still really like Sanji, but that's me as a personality.
Sanji's awesome. He
and
gets curb stomped
that
too
scene keeps getting better with every single arc that goes by where we get more pieces of Sanji's character. It gets better and better because of the connection between him and Zeph.
Mm-hmm.
And which he really cared about this guy. And for
Zeph
him to say
really
goodbye hurt him
Uh-huh.
immensely.
Yeah. We even get to see them on the Baratier as well.
Yeah.
Where they're all like, like, he's going places, he's on the right ship, and everybody on the Baratier was so proud
What's
of
great
Luffy's
is
bounty.
when Sanji actually gets a bounty, like, they frame it.
I know! It's so cool. They frame it in, like, the centerpiece right in front of the door. It's like, he used to work here! Like,
He's a friend from work.
I love camp. Like, because I love One Piece because of how campy it is and how seriously it takes itself when it needs to be.
I will say though that when it comes down to it, like there, like this is going a little bit too far, but it would, but we mentioned this in the previous one, so it would feel kind of weird if I didn't mention it again. I definitely know that for me, the battles are never going to be a platinum. Like, I always think about it where it's like, if Arlong Park was my platinum, I would not feel good about it. But because there's such a great moment of characterization with Sanji, I had to give it my platinum. When you talk about the next few arcs, there were some good moments that aren't battles. Like, with Alabasta, it's during Drum Island, and it's not a battle,
Drum
but
Island
it's a moment
such...
before they actually do fight.
He just wanted to play the reindeer games. That's all he wanted.
Like, when you talk about Water 7, it's like, it's before they fight.
Iceberg's amazing. I love Iceberg.
When you talk about Skypiea,
I've never
he's
seen...
out of the battle when it happens. You know, all of these moments are not the battle, it's the feeling before or after the battle.
Because Oda has some top-notch character writing.
Yeah.
Yes, he repeats some aspects of the characters, but he
Especially
never
their models.
straight... If they're women, always. But even if they're the same, like, take for instance, we haven't met either one of these characters. There is a character in Alabasta.
Don't say her
and
name.
a character in Dressrosa. They're really similar. If you know the arcs, you know exactly the characters I'm talking about. They even look the same.
The problem with Dressrosa is that she was introduced at the end of the over arc, while the character that we're talking about for Alabasta were introduced
was almost a crew
at the
member.
very beginning of
Even
it, and she
before the
becomes
arc even
almost
begins.
a crew member during the events.
Yeah.
And these temporary party members, essentially, is a very interesting aspect, but he doesn't do it that often.
Mm-hmm.
And especially in
And
Dressrosa.
she was really the closest of the temporary characters to really join.
And it's funny because the more that we see her, the more we go, man, it would have been cool if she was in it, but she doesn't have interesting powers. Nah, I guess she has to stay here.
Well, also, she was bound to her country.
Yeah, a little bit.
In a way none of the other characters were. There's even a character coming up.
Would you still like to talk about her when she actually does become part of the crew temporary, even though she's not a full crew member? Talk about her like she is.
Yes, we have to. And we have to talk about Nami, because I'm really glad that we get to redo this episode, as this is our time to talk about Nami as a crew member, and how we felt about her.
So, Nami is referred to as a cat burglar, but in reality, she's a magician.
Yeah. She's
That was my phone. Don't worry.
She's a lady magician.
Essentially what most of her stuff is deception, but during Alabasta... During Alabasta, she gets a power-up. We're going to talk about this when it actually comes up, but Usopp basically makes something that she utilizes the entire thing, which is called a climb attack.
Which actually becomes the single greatest weapon that they use in one of the recent arcs.
In which she basically uses the weather to her advantage.
Which she does already.
Almost like, using like magical, these sticks to almost, imitate like a thunderstorm, rain. She does, she makes it look like she goes invisible using mirage, but...
No, wait!
That's still funny every single time I see it. But coming down to it, like, what she really is, she's their navigator.
Mm-hmm.
She's their female person on the team. And
She's
every
not
once in a
there
while,
to pick a
she's
fight.
their fan service. But not that often.
Every once in a while. How long
Like,
have you been
in the
with
actual
One Piece?
story, in the actual story,
Oh, in
she's
story.
she's not that much of a fan service character. She's usually used for just like promotional art, and she's used for like, hey, we got this really nice cover art.
She sells
She's gonna
really
be in
well.
the middle. Yeah.
Nami makes her own money in and out of universe.
And it's kind of interesting that Nami is such an important character to the crew, and they do all this, and this is her last really important moment, besides like a few really interesting moments that she has later.
She had one recently.
Yeah, and
Which
she only
she
recently
hadn't had one
a
for a while.
She only recently
before
had a
that.
really big role in the actual story.
Which I loved. Like, some people were super snippy about it, but I loved it.
Well,
'Cause
they're
Nami's a
keeping
really-
him, so she now has a
But
familiar which lives inside the climate
slave now.
and now Sanji
Sanji's all
is getting jealous of it as well. So,
And it's not even like a real thing.
although it would actually be really interesting if he ever disappears for any weird reason.
I wouldn't know who to blame. The character / object in question, or Sanji for him going missing.
Or its creator.
Well, she's coming back for him either way, and she's gonna be pissed.
Who knows?
With everyone involved.
Unofficial 10th member. What do you know?
You mean 11th member?
No, their shipwright still hasn't joined them.
Well, they have a shipwright. It's a helmsman.
Sorry,
that they just
helmsman,
acquired.
right. Shipwright is the person that fixes their stuff. Which
as of right now is Usopp. But back to Nami.
as we saw earlier, where he's like redoing the like side of the ship, going, "Why do you guys always have to destroy my precious ship?"
But it technically is his, but it's Luffy's because he's the captain.
Yeah, just because their sniper is the owner of the ship doesn't mean he controls it. The interesting thing about Nami as a whole, though, that I would say, she is comedy.
Yeah.
She and Usopp
Yes.
are the ones that do the most of the comedic stuff.
They're the cowards who run
Eventually,
away.
Frankie shows up and he adds to that, but it's mainly those two. Yeah, we'll get to him in about a year.
So sad. Here, more than that. It'll be like 2 years, man, at least.
Um,
We're gonna get to that arc in like 2 years, maybe.
but
Maybe more.
what I would have to say, though, is when you really boil down her character, she's the female member of the crew. And that is sort of the saddest part, is that as the series goes on, you kind of forget what she is about. And you go, man...
Oh yeah, she's the map maker of the crew. Because we see her sometimes, because there's there's Nami's room of the ship in which she makes maps in that room. Because one of the coolest things from the Platinum episode I chose is the first thing Luffy does after kicking out that desk is he tries to throw as many maps into the sea as possible. Because he doesn't want the maps. He wants the he wants the person who makes those maps.
Yeah.
Not because she makes the most amazing maps anyone has ever seen, but because he wants Nami.
Yeah. And she is a very important member of the crew. And you could see why,
she has
even to
she's
this
practically
day,
the captain, actually,
even to
of the
this
crew.
day, they ship Nami and Luffy because of these scenes.
Shipped Nami and Sanji.
No, don't you know? Sanji has to be in a relationship with Zoro. Don't you know that their rivalry will spring love eventually?
Unlikely.
Yeah. So, any final thoughts on the episodes?
These were good episodes.
I
I'm
would
really
have to
glad
agree, yeah.
we are ending on the bounty episode. And we're not, like, jumping right into a buggy episode. Because I would get an immediate bronze, if not stone. If we had to watch a buggy episode after...
No, we get one
Spring
episode
really
of Logtown and then the two buggy episodes.
No, it springs right into the buggy episodes.
Oh.
I thought I'd look. Because the next episode we are watching is Chase Straw Hat, which is part of the Buggy side quest arc.
I could look it back up later, but the
either way, we're going to get 3 whole Buggy episodes.
The one thing I would want to say though is, at the end of the day, these are great episodes, and I still stand by. If you're trying to get into the series and you don't know if you like it, watch
Arlong
this
Park.
arc.
Mm-hmm.
Watch this arc, if not the battles.
Yeah. If you have time for the full arc, I would suggest watching it. If you
just have about
just
5 hours and you just want to see the battles, that is good enough. They give you all the context you need.
Yeah. Because, at the beginning of the battle, it recaps with Nami's backstory. So you practically have their motivation right there.
You also have the really cool scene of Luffy walking backwards and the crew basically is standing right there, and you're like, oh, that's so cool. As they go off and do this battle, they win. Nami is crying out tears of happiness, and you just go, I am so relieved that I'm finally getting off of this island and going to the Grand Line.
And she's now making and collecting and stealing money for herself. And she's making maps for herself. And she has achieved her dream already.
I do want to say, though, that as one final thought, the Buggy episodes.
I just realized
I skipped past them twice while I was going through the series.
No, we have to watch them.
We said
filler too.
I only watched a tiny bit of it, which means that Combo's not going to be here next week either, because even if he had the time, now that we're doing it on Wednesday, he still won't be able to do it.
Usually when we'll be doing it. We couldn't do it this week because I had some workshop classes.
And I messed up the recording.
We did the recording on Wednesday. Yeah. Combo couldn't be here because of the time.
Yeah.
But usually we would do it on Wednesday evenings.
Yeah. So hopefully there aren't problems with this one.
Okay.
And that we can actually get through with this.
Yeah.
So, goodbye everyone.
Bye.